I stared at the ceiling, thinking of all the times Jake had crossed lines and no one said a word. The coaches who laughed it off. The teachers who bent rules for him. The cops who warned him instead of charging him. I thought of Emma's eyes in that video. Frightened, pleading, alone. And I made a choice. I wasn't going to be part of the silence anymore. The next morning, I walked into the principal's office with the video loaded on a flash drive. I told Mrs. Morrison everything. About the parties, the drugs, the violence. About the bruises Jake left on me and others. I expected disbelief. Maybe even punishment. What I didn't expect was her silence. She didn't watch the video right away. She just stared at me, lips pressed tight, before finally saying, "This is serious, Marcus. Are you sure you understand what you're doing?" "I do," I told her. "Do you?" The fallout didn't come immediately. For a few hours, it was as if the world hadn't noticed. Classes ticked on. Jake swaggered through the halls like nothing had changed, tossing a wink to the cheerleaders and nodding to the teachers who'd long since stopped trying to discipline him. But by lunch, word was out. The whispers started like a slow leak, soft, speculative, and then growing louder. I was in the cafeteria when it happened. Principal Morrison called Jake to the office over the loudspeaker. His face twitched, just for a second. Then he smiled that same arrogant smile and strolled out, like he owned the place. 5 minutes later, Mrs. Davidson, my English teacher, found me outside the science wing. "Come with me," she said gently, like I was something fragile that might break. I followed her to her classroom. She locked the door behind us and shut the blinds. "You're not safe here," she said. "Not right now." "What's going on?" "The police are involved. They've already spoken to the girl in the video. Jake's been suspended pending investigation." I sat down hard, my breath catching in my throat. I stared at the ceiling, thinking of all the times Jake had crossed lines and no one said a word. The coaches who laughed it off. The teachers who bent rules for him. The cops who warned him instead of charging him. I thought of Emma's eyes in that video. Frightened, pleading, alone. And I made a choice. I wasn't going to be part of the silence anymore. The next morning, I walked into the principal's office with the video loaded on a flash drive. I told Mrs. Morrison everything. About the parties, the drugs, the violence. About the bruises Jake left on me and others. I expected disbelief. Maybe even punishment. What I didn't expect was her silence. She didn't watch the video right away. She just stared at me, lips pressed tight, before finally saying, "This is serious, Marcus. Are you sure you understand what you're doing?" "I do," I told her. "Do you?" The fallout didn't come immediately. For a few hours, it was as if the world hadn't noticed. Classes ticked on. Jake swaggered through the halls like nothing had changed, tossing a wink to the cheerleaders and nodding to the teachers who'd long since stopped trying to discipline him. But by lunch, word was out. The whispers started like a slow leak, soft, speculative, and then growing louder. I was in the cafeteria when it happened. Principal Morrison called Jake to the office over the loudspeaker. His face twitched, just for a second. Then he smiled that same arrogant smile and strolled out, like he owned the place. 5 minutes later, Mrs. Davidson, my English teacher, found me outside the science wing. "Come with me," she said gently, like I was something fragile that might break. I followed her to her classroom. She locked the door behind us and shut the blinds. "You're not safe here," she said. "Not right now." "What's going on?" "The police are involved. They've already spoken to the girl in the video. Jake's been suspended pending investigation." I sat down hard, my breath catching in my throat. "What about my parents?" "They've been informed. They're not happy." That was an understatement. I saw just how not happy they were when I got home that evening. Dad was waiting, standing in the hallway like a warden. "What the hell did you do?" he growled. Mom stood behind him, arms folded, face pale but tight with rage. "I told the truth," I said. Jake was upstairs, slamming doors and shouting into his phone. Dad advanced on me. "You're going to fix this. You're going to tell them it was a mistake." "I won't," I said. "I won't lie." Then came the slap. Hard. Sudden. My ears rang. Mom didn't stop him. She just watched, her eyes cold. "You've ruined this family." She said. "No," I whispered. "Jake did. You just helped him." The days after Jake's suspension passed in a blur of tension, dread, and whispered revelations. I wasn't welcome at home anymore, not really. I slept with my door locked, ate my meals standing up in the kitchen while my parents ignored me, and avoided Jake like he was radioactive. He'd become a storm contained only by the walls of our house, pacing like a caged animal, muttering about lies and betrayal. Every time he walked past me, I braced for the hit I knew could come. But it didn't. Not yet. The town was waking up. First came the local news article, quoting unnamed sources, about a developing investigation involving the high school football team. Then the video leaked. I don't know who did it. Maybe Emma, maybe someone from the school. But once it hit social media, everything changed. You couldn't walk through the school without hearing Jake's name, whispered or shouted. The boys on the team closed ranks, glaring at anyone they suspected of being a snitch. Teachers started treating me like a radioactive object. And the girls, some couldn't look me in the eye, like they were ashamed. Others nodded, quiet acknowledgments of truth they couldn't yet speak aloud. And then came the second video. Emma herself this time. She posted it on her account. Face uncovered, voice shaking but firm. She told her story. What Jake had done. What she'd endured in silence because no one would believe her over the golden boy. The effect was seismic. 2 more girls came forward that same day. Sarah, Megan, each with their own stories. Each one adding to the crumbling illusion that Jake Thompson was just a kid who made a mistake. My parents' fury hit a fever pitch. That night, I came home to find all my things in garbage bags. "You want to destroy this family?" My mother hissed. "Fine. Go live with someone else." I did. I called Mrs. Davidson. I didn't even need to explain. "Come," she said. "Bring your sister, too." Lily didn't ask questions when I told her to pack. She'd seen more than she'd ever let on. She hadn't spoken much since our mom slapped me. But when I reached for her hand, she squeezed back. "I don't want to stay here anymore," she whispered. That was all I needed to hear. We left that night in a quiet convoy. Mrs. Davidson's car in front, Detective Santos in an unmarked cruiser behind us, and Rebecca trailing in her old Camry, just in case. As we drove through the quiet streets, I saw phones lighting up in people's hands, heads bent in shock or curiosity. By the next morning, the entire town would know. Jake Thompson, star quarterback, had been suspended for sexual assault allegations. His younger brother was the whistleblower. And suddenly, the myth of the perfect family began to unravel in the public eye. Mrs. Davidson's home was warm and smelled of cinnamon and old books. Her husband, a soft-spoken man with kind eyes, didn't say much, just took our garbage bags and disappeared upstairs without complaint. Lily and I stood in the entryway, unsure how to move in a space that didn't demand obedience or silence. "You're safe here," Mrs. Davidson said. "And you're wanted." I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear that until then. That night, neither Lily nor I could sleep. She came to my room in the oversized t-shirt Mrs. Davidson had given her, eyes wide and sad. "Do you think Jake knows we're here?" "He's got bigger problems," I told her. "The police, the DA, the girls speaking out." She nodded but didn't move. I patted the space beside me, and she sat, knees tucked to her chest, our silence thick with everything we couldn't say. My phone buzzed again. A call from Marcus, the lawyer who'd been assigned to us. "The DA is pursuing multiple felony charges," he said. "Jake's facing serious time. And your parents, well, obstruction, intimidation, conspiracy, they're in trouble too." Should have felt like a victory. Didn't. It just felt heavy. Next day at school, the suspension against me was lifted. But the social atmosphere had never been colder. Whispers followed me down every hall. Some students avoided me, others stared too long. A few nodded with quiet respect. But it wasn't until lunch that something shifted. I sat alone until Sarah Martinez walked over, her tray clutched like a shield. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. I gestured to the empty seat. Sure. She didn't eat much. Just picked at her food until finally saying, You were the first one to actually do something. I never thanked you. I just did what I could. No, she said. You did what we were all too scared to. More girls joined us. Megan, Ashley, Emma. We didn't say much. We didn't have to. There was something powerful about sitting together in the open, no longer hiding. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I answered on instinct. Is this Marcus? A male voice asked. Nervous. Wavering. Yeah. Who's this? Alex Chun. I was on the team. Megan's cousin. I need to talk to someone. He confessed everything. About Coach Williams. About the steroids. About the other drugs, the ones that made you aggressive, lowered empathy, made you feel invincible. I took them for 2 years, he said. Last week, I almost hurt my girlfriend. I realized maybe it wasn't just Jake. Maybe he was just the worst of us. My blood went cold. Are you willing to talk to the police? A long pause. Then, yeah, I think I am. Everything fell apart faster than I imagined. 1 minute, we were reeling from new testimonies. The next, I got a frantic call from Megan's brother. She's missing. Jake's out on emergency bail. Then Lily's whisper. He's here. The school. With Megan. Panic surged through me. Mrs. Davidson grabbed her keys. I'm driving, she said. Call 911 now. We arrived to find Jake's truck parked crookedly in the lot. Megan was inside, her face terrified. Jake leaned against the door like he owned the place. Let her go, I shouted. He turned to me, eyes wild. This is all your fault. And then I saw it, the knife in his hand. Everything happened fast. More cars arrived, Rebecca, Connor, students, parents. A wall of people began forming. Jake's grip on Megan tightened. You're hurting me, she whimpered. You think I care? He snarled. Sirens howled in the distance. Connor stepped forward. You won't do it. You're not a killer. Jake's eyes darted. The crowd, the sirens, the knife. 25 to life, he shouted. All because of you. Then he did something I didn't expect. He raised the knife to himself. No. I yelled, running forward. Officers tackled him. The knife hit the ground. Megan collapsed into Austin's arms. Jake screamed curses as they cuffed him. The crowd stood in stunned silence. I didn't move until Lily found me. Is it over? She whispered. I don't know. The next few days passed in a strange, exhausted haze. School was canceled. CPS confirmed that Lily and I could stay with the Davidsons indefinitely. My parents were arrested again for attempting to intimidate other victims' families. Coach Williams was arrested after Alex's testimony. And then, another bombshell, Connor turned over years of secret recordings. Not because he wanted to be a hero, but because he was tired of being complicit. Jake was denied bail this time. His threats in the parking lot sealed that. Victims came to the Davidson house in waves. Emma, Sarah, Megan. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. Just existing in the same room helped. Connor came by too. Exhausted, remorseful, ashamed. I want to apologize, he said. Not just to you. To them. That's not my choice, I told him. You'll have to ask them. Some would talk to him. Some never would. And that was okay. Then came Jake's attorney with an unexpected offer. Jake wanted to plead guilty, but only if I met with him, face to face. I almost said no, but I needed closure. I needed to hear it. The morning of the prison visit was gray and cold, the sky mirroring the weight pressing on my chest. Mrs. Davidson insisted on coming with me, along with Marcus. The drive was quiet, everyone lost in their own thoughts. I kept playing the conversation over in my mind, what Jake would say, how I'd respond, whether it would make a difference. A part of me wanted to scream at him, another part wanted to understand, and yet another didn't want to hear anything at all. But I went anyway. The prison was every bit as bleak as I imagined. Gray walls, heavy gates, guards who didn't smile. We were led into a sterile room with a metal table, 2 chairs on either side. Jake was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, his hands cuffed at his waist. He looked smaller than I remembered, thinner, worn down, hollow. The cocky grin he used to wear like a crown was gone. His eyes, once filled with fire and arrogance, were now just tired. "Hey!" he said quietly, like we were just two brothers catching up after a long absence. I nodded. "Hey!" We sat across from each other, the silence dragging on until he finally broke it. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know that doesn't mean anything. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I need to say it." "For what, exactly?" "For hurting Emma. And the others. For what I did to you and Lily. For being a monster." "You weren't always a monster," I said. He looked down at his hands. "No, but I became one. And that's on me." He looked up, and I saw the tears in his eyes. "You remember when I started those injections? I was 14. Coach said it would make me stronger. Mom and Dad said it would help me get scholarships. I thought they were right. I thought being the best meant doing whatever it took. But that stuff, it changed me. Made me feel like I could do anything and not care about the consequences." "That's not an excuse," I said. "I know. It's just context. Plenty of guys took it and didn't do what I did. But I did. I used what I had to hurt people. I let myself become what they wanted." He paused. "I think the worst part was when I realized I couldn't stop. When I started liking the power, the control." I swallowed hard, bile rising in my throat. "Why did you want to see me?" "Because I wanted you to know that I know. That I remember who I used to be. The brother who taught you how to throw a football. The one who walked you to class. I remember him, and I want to believe that somewhere deep down, that version of me existed. That maybe I wasn't always this. And now,
I'm pleading guilty.
to everything. No deal.
No loopholes.
I won't fight the charges. I want to make sure I never hurt anyone again. 25 years minimum. I'll be 45 when I get out if I get out. And when that happens, I won't expect anything from you. Not forgiveness. Not contact. Nothing." I studied him for a long time. "Then why ask to see me?" "Because I wanted to ask you one last thing," he said, voice cracking. "Look after Lily. She's going to need you. And maybe one day, years from now, you could write. Just so I know someone out there remembers me as more than what I became." I stood slowly. "I can't promise that." "I know," he said. "But thank you for coming." I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. The trial came 2 months later. Jake pled guilty to all charges.
No plea bargains.
No defense arguments. Just a list of horrors read aloud in court and a sentence that echoed through the entire town. 25 years with the possibility of parole at 30. My parents were convicted of witness tampering, conspiracy, and child endangerment. My mother got 5 years. My father got 3. Their business, the once popular restaurant, was sold to pay for legal fees and settlements to the victims. The school district faced its own reckoning. The football program was disbanded. Coach Williams was sentenced to 10 years for substance distribution and endangering minors. Several assistant coaches resigned or were fired. The principal stepped down amid public outcry. A new era was beginning, one without blind obedience to talent or tradition. Mrs. Davidson helped Lily and me navigate the legal proceedings. Therapy became part of our routine. Lily, once quiet and withdrawn, began to open up. She joined a writing club at school, started journaling, smiled more often. As for me, I started speaking at assemblies, quietly at first, then more confidently. Not just about Jake, but about courage. About silence and the damage it causes. About the cost of telling the truth and the reward of surviving it. Connor joined one of the sessions, apologizing publicly to the victims who allowed it. Some forgave him, others didn't. He accepted both responses. He transferred to a different school but stayed in contact, always checking on how things were going. He'd lost friends, his reputation, and a sense of belonging, but he'd gained a conscience. Sometimes that mattered more. A year passed, then 2. Life didn't magically get easier, but it grew bearable. Mrs. Davidson and her husband became permanent guardians to Lily and me. Our house was filled with books and warm food and laughter that didn't sound rehearsed or hollow. Lily graduated high school and was accepted into a psychology program. She wanted to help kids like us, those stuck in silence, surrounded by people too afraid to act. I started college, majoring in criminal justice. I couldn't change what Jake had done, but I could do something about the systems that allowed it to happen. I interned with Marcus, worked late nights at the law office, and wrote articles for student journals. Every so often, someone would stop me on campus or send me a message online. Someone who'd seen the videos, heard the story, and found the courage to speak up in their own life. One night, I came home to find a letter in the mailbox. No return address, just my name. Inside was a single piece of paper. Thank you for remembering me when I forgot who I was. I won't write again. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying to become someone who doesn't need forgiving.
No signature.
But I knew it was Jake. I stood outside for a long time, letter in hand, staring at the stars, thinking about all we'd lost, all we'd gained, the versions of ourselves we'd buried, and the new ones we were slowly building. I wasn't just the brother of a monster anymore. I was a survivor, a fighter, a voice that refused to be silenced. And Lily, my brave, brilliant sister, was the same. We were okay. More than okay. We were free. Thank you for listening to our story. If this resonated with you, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Kindle Stories. Your support helps us bring more real, emotional, and powerful narratives to life. And if you've ever faced a hard truth or stood up when it mattered, know that your story deserves to be heard too.